thank you so much for coming this evening. I'm sure there was other activities you could have been at, but it's certainly a pleasure to have you all with us. I'm sure Jonathan feels warm with your presence here, and we're gonna open up his little heart to you, so you'll experience a little give and take. Certainly, the spotlight's on him for the lead part of the evening. The latter part of the evening, we're going to open it up to questions. So if he and I don't get to a topic that starts bubbling up for you, please stay and spend some time with us with your questions. First and foremost, born on October 26, 1961, a Greenville, South Carolina native, Jonathan Segal entered the University of Idaho on a track scholarship. Not many people know that. Not finding a great deal of academic success in high school, Jonathan was able to find success amongst his peers studying architecture. Jonathan left Idaho, driving to San Diego with Wendy, who chose to move to San Diego herself, in a 1968 Rambler with $350 in his pocket in 1984. Jonathan met Wendy in ballet class, a co-ed phys ed class he incorporated into his training regimen. Somewhat following in his father's footsteps, Jonathan's track scholarship followed his father's pursuit, earning a bronze medal in the 1960 Olympics for Great Britain. Timing is everything to Jonathan, as he arrived in San Diego as the recession receded and jobs were plentiful in architecture. While Wendy pursued a career in property management, after garnering several job offers, Jonathan secured work with Homer Delowy's firm. Shortly thereafter, Jonathan wanted to contrast his work for a large firm with that of a smaller boutique firm hired by Clio, a firm noted for its onion for Godzilla's dollhouse. Jonathan swears he had nothing to do with that project. At the suggestion of CCDC's Charles Tyson, Jonathan began investigating what it would take to build row homes in the city. He and Wendy traveled to study row homes on the East Coast and took up Tyson's offer to buy a then throwaway lot for $5,000. On the eve of another recession, Jonathan closed escrow on the last of his 7 on Kettner row homes, and poverty set in. Certainly, Jonathan and the rest of the city was able to rebound and prosper. Since that time, Jonathan and Wendy have distanced themselves from conventional market wisdom by not focusing on what will sell, but instead from their own unique stance. Much of that stance has come through in dozens of his lectures, interviews, and awards. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan Segal. You all wired up? All right.
Thank you.
So you're a transplant from South Carolina and Idaho. What were those first days and those first weeks like in San Diego upon arriving?
We came, from Idaho, and we basically had enough money to last a week to get work. We had $350. We had a Rambler that I had rebuilt the engine. We had 4 radial tires because we couldn't afford, more than one at a time. And we were pretty poor. We fortunately had about $10,000 in student loans. And this was the land of opportunity. And it was amazing. There was work everywhere.
Did you envision, obviously, where you sit today? Back then, I mean, was there a sense of, I'm going to make a life here? How did those first days and weeks and months in San Diego, I mean, how did you project your life here?
Well, the strange thing is, people tend to think that successful people all have a mission and a pattern, and they have a game plan. And I believe a lot of life is actually just serendipity, and things just happen. And I think when you can put energy with some kind of talent together, things start to make sense. We never had a plan. We just sort of lived every day, and each day brought something different. And I think that's the secret to our success, is not having to have a plan, a long-term plan that you actually have to get to.
So you're telling the young people of today don't have a plan?
Well, I'm telling them don't go in debt.
Okay.
You want to have dreams. I think if you can put things into a bottle and say, these are my dreams, and I plan on getting to those dreams, and that's a plan.
Okay. Some people think your first Kettner project was your first project in San Diego, but what would be your first project?
Well, when I went to to University of Idaho as a good Jewish boy. I was supposed to be a doctor. So I went and took the pre-med class and failed that. So that means I had to take 2 chemistry classes at once. And in our little fraternity room, I built a little loft out of some materials that we found out at a construction site. Right, at a construction site. And that's sort of, I don't remember, my kids don't think I can remember yesterday, but I don't remember a lot of things that happened and how they happened. But built that loft, and somehow I became in architecture school. I have no idea how that happened. But my mother being an artist, I think part of that swayed me towards that.
Has that been developed into another form or another property at this time?
I think the loft is probably still in the fraternity room.
Your earliest career moments here in San Diego were with Homer Delowy and certainly his associates and your former coworkers. What opportunities arose out of working with Homer and your colleagues back then?
Well, I think when I came down here, I interviewed with Rob Quigley because our teacher said that Rob's the guy to come to. So I came down, and I know that Todd and Catherine here, they work for Rob, and I'm sure they're making huge money doing it. Rob said to me, Jonathan, I'd like you to work like a 60-hour week, and I'm not sure if we can quite get you minimum wage, but you're going to love it. And I thought, wow, that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking to get an education on how to build a building. Granted, Rob was a brilliant architect, but I really wanted to get compensated for what I was doing. I felt that I could do a good job, and Homer's office was, strangely enough, the right office. I didn't know really much about his office. They just seemed to be the most aggressive, and they had the greatest opportunity.
And what did he teach you, as you've said, to build a building?
Well, Andrew Rodriguez was my mentor in Homer's office, and I think my goal was to work for 2 firms. One firm that was large for 2 years and one firm that was small for 2 years, and I wanted to learn the business of architecture because I wanted to be an architect. I didn't want to be a developer or anything else, and I needed to understand how to process a drawing, how to draw a drawing properly, how to deal with the contractor, how to do a change order, how to deal with the process of being an architect, because I felt as though if I got those tools or had those tools, I could do my own work. So I really wasn't interested in learning a design process. I was interested in learning a business process.
And how did Homer introduce you to downtown?
Well, Homer was a very interesting guy. He passed away 4 or 5 months ago, 6 months ago. He was an entrepreneur also, and he said to me, we were down at John Breton, JB was his name, his condo down at Park Row, which was the first redevelopment down there. And he said to Wendy, you guys ought to live downtown. I thought, wow, how are we going to do that? We can't afford that. We had been out of school. We had saved $10,000 in 6 months. And he said, I'll go half and half. We'll buy a condo downtown. You can live downtown, and we'll share it, and we'll share the profit or the loss.
And that living in downtown, you took a brief hiatus and lived in La Jolla, but I mean, downtown has really been your home for most of your time here in San Diego.
Since 1984. And again, it's like, was my dream to come to San Diego, to live downtown, to do development? No, my dream was to get that Rambler down here, get a job, get stable, hopefully buy another car because the door wouldn't close and the steering wheel's bad, and I did the brakes, didn't know what I was doing, so it was pulling always to the left, and just I just wanted to not be poor anymore. Yeah.
So was that what pushed you to go out on your own? Is it big firm versus small firm, or was it a design aesthetic, like I had to do this on loan, or was it financially you had to control your income? I mean, large firm, small firm, how did you go to your self-employment?
Well, I think every architect's got an oversized ego, and every architect thinks they're smarter and better and faster than everybody else. So me kind of filling that void there, I wanted to do my own thing. And Charles Tyson was a developer that came to CCDC, and I think there were maybe 6 or 7 people that actually lived downtown at the time. So naturally, I was on the CCDC's Residence Advisory Board, and I said my thesis project was some row houses, and I'd really like to show them to you because I'd like to do some architecture for you. He says, and this is like the greatest gift anybody's ever given me. He said, you don't want to do that. You want to do your own project. You want to build your own project. My mother she's land rich and cash poor. There's a funky 7,000 square foot triangular lot. You give me $5,000 down. You pay $350,000 for it and close 5 months later. So I'm this big smart guy. I think I'll renegotiate. He said, you didn't quite get it. That was the deal. That's it. Take it or leave it. You've got 24 hours to say yes.